Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2nd, Text 24. I mean, it's 21 to 24, but 24 is the... Asinaha samvishamstishthan Bunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyastanmayam jagat Ashina samvishamstishthan Bunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyat tanmayam jagat. Asinam samvisamstishthan Bhunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyat tanmayam jagat. Asina samvishamstishthan Bhunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyat tanmayam jagat. Asina samvishamstishthan Bhunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyat tanmayam jagat. Asina samvishamstishthan Bhunjana paryatan mahim Chintayano rishikesham Apasyat tanmayam jagat. Anyone else? Transliteration. Asinaha. While sitting comfortably. Mataji, zoom out a little bit. Zoom in. Zoom out. I think people cannot see. So, while sitting comfortably in his sitting room or the throne. Samvishan, or lying on his bed. Tishthan, or staying anywhere. Bhunjanaha, while eating. Paryatan, while walking or moving, mahim, on the ground, going hither and thither, chintayanaha, always inimically thinking of, Rishikesham, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of everything, apasyat, observed, tatmayam, consisting of him, Krishna, and nothing more, jagat, the entire world. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While sitting on his throne or in his sitting room, while lying on his bed, or indeed while situated anywhere, and while eating, sleeping, or walking, Kamsa saw only his enemy, the Supreme Lord Rishikesha. In other words, by thinking of his all-pervading enemy, Kamsa became unfavorably Krishna conscious. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami has described the finest pattern of devotional service as anukulyena Krishnanusilanam, or cultivating Krishna consciousness favorably. Kamsa, of course, was also Krishna conscious, but because he regarded Krishna as his enemy, even though he was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, his Krishna consciousness was not favorable for his existence. Krishna consciousness, favorably cultivated, makes one completely happy so much that a Krishna conscious person does not consider Kaivalya Sukham, or merging into the existence of Krishna, to be of great gain. Kaivalyam narakayate. For a Krishna conscious person, even merging into the existence of Krishna or Brahman, as impersonalists aspire to do, is uncomfortable. Kaivalyam narakayate tridasa pur akasa pushpayate. Karmis hanker to be promoted to the heavenly planets, but a Krishna conscious person considers such promotion a will of the wisp, good for nothing. Durdan tendriya kala sarpa patali protkhata damstrayate. Yogis try to control their senses and thus become happy, but a Krishna conscious person neglects the methods of yoga. He is unconcerned with the greatest of enemies, the senses, which are compared to snakes. For a Krishna conscious person who is cultivating Krishna consciousness favorably, the happiness conceived by the karmis, jnanis, and the yogis is treated as less than a fig. Kamsa, however, because of cultivating Krishna consciousness in a different way, that is inimically, was uncomfortable in all the affairs of this life, whether sitting, sleeping, walking, and eating. He was always in danger. This is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. A non-devotee or atheist also cultivates God consciousness by trying to avoid God in everything. For example, so-called scientists who want to create a life by combination of chemicals regard the external material elements as supreme. Such scientists do not like the idea that life is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mame Vamso Jive Loke Jivabhuta Sanatanaha, the living entities do not arise from a combination of material elements such as earth, water, air, and fire, but are separated portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one can understand the position of the living entity as a separated portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by studying the nature of the living entity, one can understand the nature of the Supreme Godhead. Since the living entity is a fragmental sample of the Godhead, but because atheists are not interested in God consciousness, they try to be happy by cultivating Krishna consciousness in various unfavorable ways. Although Kamsa was always absorbed in the thoughts of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was not happy. A devotee, however, whether sitting on a throne or beneath a tree, is always happy. Srila Rupa Goswami resigned from office as a government minister, so sit beneath a tree, yet he was happy. Tyaktva turnam asesha mandala pati shrenim sada tuchhavat. He did not care for his comfortable position as minister, as he was happy even beneath a tree in Vrindavana, favorably serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. For a non-devotee, the world is full of problems, whereas for a devotee, the entire world is full of happiness. Vishwam purna sukhayate vidhi mahendradaista kitayate yat karunya kataksha vaibhavatam tam gauram evastumaha. This comfortable position of a devotee can be established by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yasmin sthitona dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Even when a devotee is superficially put into great difficulty, he is never disturbed. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yanam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So in this chapter, actually, we notice that in the previous 3-4 shlokas, Kamsa is 24/7 only thinking of Sri Krishna when he is going to be born in the womb. His consciousness is only towards how is he going to slay. He knows by Dharma Shastra that he should not slay a pregnant woman because it causes defamy to a Kshatriya. Now, what is important to understand is when Sri Krishna was in the womb of Devaki, one should understand the difference of consciousness between Kamsa and Devaki and Vasudev. Vasudev 24/7 as the father of Sri Krishna, he is only thinking of how Krishna is in the womb of his wife Devaki. How is he doing? What is Devaki's consciousness? She is only thinking of the protection of her child, just like any mother thinks in her womb, actually. So we see the difference in consciousness between what is a Bhagavata and what is a non-Bhagavata. It is very easy in the purport, as Srila Prabhupada has said. We sometimes try to use the word ourselves as devotees, but we are aspirant devotees. Devotee is someone who is Devaki, who is Vasudeva, actually. We are only aspirant. We may have Jnana Mishra, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, but real Bhakti comes out of love. In fact, Devaki's womb is called Hiranyagarbha. It is golden. It is pure. It is infallible. It is not the womb of a material mother. A material mother's womb, nothing wrong. It is part of life given by Bhagavan only. But the child resides inside. But when Sri Krishna was inside the womb of Devaki, he is still wearing his Pitambaram. He is in Chaturbhujam. He is having his Kundalam. He is having his ornaments. He is having his Paduka. Everything is actually inside, is with Sri Krishna, doesn't matter. It is not like a material child who is born out of the womb of the mother and comes out of blood and mucus. He is always effulgent. This is the beauty. And you can imagine what is Devaki's consciousness. We should try to learn from Devaki's consciousness and Vasudev's consciousness as a father, as a mother of Sri Krishna. Of course, they have done so much penance to attain Sri Krishna as their child, as Sutapa and Srini. In 2 generations, twice they have done it before, and third time they are born. Sri Krishna appears in Devaki's womb. In fact, in the next verse, it is said that all the Devatas, including Brahma, Indra, Varuna, they all actually come to give obeisances to Devaki. Now, if we think ourselves as devotees, imagine where we were 5,000 years ago. We were in some other body or some other loka, in some other consciousness. We don't even have the consciousness to understand what is the beauty. They are coming personally, actually. Personally, they come in the jail cell to give prayers. Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Lord Shiva, they come. They come to worship, actually. Jai Shri Radhakala Chandji. They come to worship, actually, the womb of Devaki. They offer prayers. In fact, by their divine chakshu, they can actually see the beauty of Lord. This is called consciousness of a Bhagavata. We may think we may chant few rounds and nothing wrong. We are aspirant as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Tranadapi Sunichena is to understand and realize what our eternal position is, as we are part and parcel, as Prabhupada writes in this shloka, and how our consciousness should actually be upgraded to 24/7 think about Sri Krishna's beauty, actually. In fact, we see that this consciousness, even when we look at Bhishma Pitama, when he was on the bed of arrows, he composed Vishnu Sahasranamam. And if we think about ourselves as a Bhagavata, can we even think about composing 1,000 names of Lord Krishna? Not even one name we will remember. That is a definition of Bhagavata. The comparison given, Kamsa, naturally there is a reason why he is there. But we should learn from the stalwart Bhagavatas of how they think of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. He composes Subhusho Durdharo Vagme Mahendro Vasudo Vasuhu Naikarupo Brahadrupo Shishishta Prakashanaha. He says Lord Krishna is actually possessing excellent arms which protect the three worlds. Imagine those same arms are inside the womb of Devaki, and how the Devatas come to offer obeisances and still think that he is the only one they can protect us. And this all three in Lokan actually. He's the master of the three worlds, three in Lokan. So, Durdaraha, meaning of Sri Krishna, means one who upholds the universe, which no one else can do in Vamana Avataram. So, it says Naikarupa, one who is without an exclusive form, because it is unique. Sachidanandam Vigraha. So, Sipivishtha, it means one who resides in cows. This is how Bhishma Pitama has described. Out of 1,000 names, these are 8 names I just described. This is the consciousness of actually Bhishma Pitama. How he thinks the beauty of Lord Sri Krishna, actually speaking. So we should try to understand what internal consciousness is. In fact, the same form of Sri Krishna is seen by Markandeya Rishi in the 9th canto. And he says, Padma Garbhanu Rupangam Hridya Hasa Valokanam Swasa Ijad Vali Samigna Nimna Nabi Dalo Daram. He says, Markandeya Rishi sees a baby, the Sri Krishna. Actually, he is like a Maha Marakata, like a great emerald with a dark blue Shyamam. It is so deep that no depth of the causal ocean can describe the beauty of Sri Krishna. Just like we see Kalachandji or any other form of Sri Krishna. That beauty is to be understood, is to be realized, is to be ingrained actually. And he has a beautiful nose. And he describes that it is like Dadi Mam, it is like resembling pomegranate flowers. And Padma Garbha, so like the whirl of a lotus. There's a very nice song which is composed by Madhvacharya, right? We say, Sarilam Madhuram, Kamalam Madhuram. Madhvacharya says, Kamalam Madhuram. Everything is lotus about Sri Krishna. And everything is beautiful about him. And lotus flower, if we see, imagine how pink it is. But imagine the lotus flower is mixed with the blue hue. That is the beauty which Markandeya Rishi sees in the lotus with the blue emerald. This is actually what a Bhagavata thinks when he aspires to be with Krishna, when he meditates, when he chants Sri Krishna's name, actually. And we can see this is actually described in a wonderful shloka. In fact, we look at Lord's neck. Padmalaya Valaya Dhata Sujata Rekhe Tvat Kanti Mechaikata Sankha Labe Mathir Me Vishmera Bhava Ruchira Vanamali Keva Kunde Guna Bhavati Devapate Tvadiye. So the lines on Sri Krishna's neck actually are formed when the gopis and Sita Devi or Lakshmi Devi, they embrace. Remember sometimes when we put a tight wrist or a bangle, you know how it creates marks. So it is described that this distinct form impression comes on Sri Krishna's neck because of embrace of his consort. It is called Padmalaya Valaya Dhate Sujata Reke, not some normal lines. Sujata Reke, Neela Meka Nibashyama Varnam. This is the beauty is described about Sri Krishna actually. And the conch and panjachanyam which he horns, it also gets this hue, this reflection in the conch because of the deep emerald of Sri Krishna. This is what a Bhagavata meditates. This is what we should aspire by chanting Sri Krishna's name, by actually worshipping him, his lotus feet. This is the real goal of what Shastra says, actually. And very nicely it is said, Kamalam Madhuram. So what does Kamalam have of Sri Krishna? Actually, it is dust. The dust is the most. We say Spadadhulis Sadasham Vichintaya. When we chanted Guru Ashtaka, we say Sri Guru Charane Reti. We take the dust. So imagine what is the dust present in Sri Krishna's feet. In fact, the dust is like a pollen, the flower or speck of dust. Panthuva Padmana Vasya Padulekeva Vamsa Ahalyadena Nirmamana Paryam Aparmanava. It says, may this dust of Sri Krishna protect. And that is why we worship the dust of Sri Krishna's lotus feet. This is actually the beauty. His feet are small. Even when he is inside Devaki's womb, Devatas actually offer obeisances to his feet. They look at his feet. Of course, he is small inside the womb, but he is effulgent. And just like we see here, his radiance is always present. It is like Devaki's womb was illuminating the whole universe. Why? Because Krishna is Sachidanandam Vigraha. And that is actually the beauty of Sri Krishna's feet. So, when Sri Krishna used to walk in Vrindavana, it is said that dust can only mix with dust. But the dust of Sri Krishna's feet is so purifying that it actually even removes the other dirt away. We say when we see dirt in world, we try to sweep it. But actually having the feet of Acharyas, having the feet from the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, when he touches feet, when we touch Kalajanji's feet, when we touch Krishna's feet, that is actually what one should aspire for. And that dust is actually the most soothing. So that is why all Acharyas say that we should worship the feet. That's why he says, so this is the beauty which is seen by Sri Krishna's Leela. How Devaki herself is meditating. She knows that the Lord of the universe is present inside her womb. But out of the Leela of Sri Krishna, Devaki is thinking, how do I protect my womb? How do I keep my child? Even when we say in Damodarashtakam, right? When Yashoda asks Krishna to open Krishna's mouth, she sees the whole universe. But actually out of love, her concern is, how is that my child has a universe in his mouth? That is actually the real aspect. It only comes by love. It only comes by bhava. We can chant, we can aspire. So we can see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our acharyas have given this philosophy. But we should take inspiration of what we call as Bhagavatas from these Bhagavatas actually, like Devaki, Vasudev, Bhishma Pitama, Hanuman. There are no examples to say actually speaking. So we can see this is actually the goal of how we should focus our life and mind upon. In fact, the Devas, they see this, that Anjanu Lambihi Alankruta Heti Jalai Jagata Raji Ruchira Jita Parijathai. So the hands of the Lord are just like blossoming like Parijata flowers. If someone has seen Parijata tree and the flowers, how blossoming it is so pleasant, it is heavenly. So Lord's small hands, Anguli, are actually blossoming like those flowers. That's how they describe. Chitrangadai Tridasa Pungava Jati Sangha Tyakta Bahubhi Mama Drudram Parirabhyate Dehe. He says this is called, his arms are broad to protect his Bhagavata. But at the same time, he is also having small fingers when he wants to do his Leela with his Gopas and the calves when he is a baby in Vrindavana. So this is the Adbhutam. It is called Adbhutam actually. It is inconceivable. That is why even Brahma and Shiva, they come to see his beautiful form, because they can see Sri Krishna's form in Virat Roop, they can see him functioning. But to imagine to see the universal form, the universal Lord of Sri Krishna in the womb of Devaki, how fortunate and how pleasant they were actually. We should aspire like that. This is the example given by Acharyas actually. So, in fact, it is described that Tol Valakai Chitra Angathai Samanvita, adorning novel bangles on his shoulders, like how we put here and we put for Kalachanji. So these things are like the Parijata tree which grants wishes. But Bhagwan having flowers from his hands, it is actually only Anjali Vaibhavam, it is Kataksham, it is blessing. Of course, it is up to us whether we want to take the blessing or no. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, we chant. Now, if we chant, we elevate our consciousness. But then, if we decide to not pursue it, then naturally it is not Sri Krishna's fault. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there were a lot of people, even Muslim people were there. Not everyone became Bhagavata. It's not because mercy is not present. Mercy is continuously flowing, as I've said always. It always flows from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. The question is whether we are recipient, we are qualified of it, we are deserving of it, actually. So that is why it is said, Anukulya Sankaspa Pratikulpa Varjanam, actually. So the same hands of Sri Krishna, which adore Sudarshanam, Panchajanyam, Sharangam or mace, Kaumodikam, which is the 4 yudhas. Sudarshana Chakra, Panchajanyam is the conch, Sharangam is the bow, and Kaumodikam is the mace. Those same hands are inside actually Devaki's womb and just playing. And there is, as I said, she is enjoying the beauty. In the material world, the child also kicks the mother in the womb and plays. But it is different, it is a joy. But imagine the joy Devaki has inside. Sri Krishna playing inside her womb. That is a real bhavam she has. So we can see how Sri Krishna's love is always there for his devotees actually. So this is the beauty which is described actually speaking. So we can see that how this, the dust, Krutina Shirasa Samudvahanta Katichit Keshava Paduke Rajasthe. So the fortunate ones are the ones who bear the dust of Sri Krishna. So that is why we say worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. That is why everything, Kamalam Madhuram, his eyes are lotus-like, his hands, his baham, his form, everything is fragrant like a lotus. Even the marks on his hands and soles, they also are fragrant. That is the beauty. That is why Vallabhacharya has described as everything is sweet. Salilam Madhuram, Kamalam Madhuram, Rupam Madhuram, Tilakam Madhuram. Everything is beautiful. It is blemishless. That is the beauty of Sri Krishna. So we can see all these 3, the shlokas. Kamsa is thinking about what I can think about Krishna, but he is not meditating about Krishna as a Bhagavata. This is an example for us that we should decide how we should meditate upon Sri Krishna, how we should chant, how we should associate, how we should think 24/7. As in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Yat karosi yadasnasi yajhosi dadasi yadyat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusva madarpanam. This is actually the goal of our life. That if we want to attain Sri Krishna, then we actually have to. In fact, it is said that when the Devatas see Krishna, generally the child is connected by the umbilical cord actually. But there the sacred thread is still present on Sri Krishna inside the womb. It is wrapped like an umbilical cord actually. That is the beauty actually. So his Nabhi, Brahma himself is so astonished because he is born from the navel of Sri Krishna. But there he sees Lord is inside him there. So that is the beauty actually. So I will end today's class because you can continue talking forever about this, about Sri Krishna's beauty. Uh, but this is the essence of the shloka, that it is okay to call ourselves in plain words Bhagavata or devotee. But real Bhagavata and devotee, if we compare, is Vasudeva and Devaki actually. But we should aspire. We cannot become them. We can aspire to serve them, like the gopis and gopikas in Vrindavana. We can aspire to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. But we also have to deserve it. There's a saying, first deserve, then desire. Some people will say you should desire first. It is true. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Tranadapi sunichena. It means that make yourself deserving first. As we know how much test Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took before accepting Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. It is not that they were always qualified, because they are eternal servants. But it is example for us. And in fact, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, they don't try to take service from Sri Krishna. They always try to serve, actually. So once it is a very nice simple pastime that once, I think Rupa Goswami was chanting Krishna's name, and then how 24/7 he's thinking of Sri Krishna. And in the morning he wakes up and he wants to pass his normal nature's call and everything. And when his tongue is so trained to chant Sri Krishna's name, he can't stop. And so he decides to hold his tongue when he's about to pass his nature's call. Then suddenly a boy comes. He wants the servant, and then the boy asks, "Is this like, why are you holding your tongue?" Then he says, "Well, you're not supposed to chant Krishna's name in that activity." Then the boy asks, what if you're about to pass your life at that time? What will you do? So we can see that, of course, this is a playful leela of Sri Krishna with the Goswamis. So, but it is for us to understand that however we can think of Sri Krishna, what we do, and meditate on his lotus feet will help us attain the true goal. So I'll end today's class. As I said, we can continue talking more and more about every beautiful limb of Sri Krishna. But Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, thank you very much for that wonderful description of the beauty of Krishna and how we can meditate on him. I noted that in the examples you gave of Devaki, Vasudeva, Bhishmadev, Markandeya Rishi, all of them were going through immense tribulation in the time of their meditation, as you described. Devaki and Vasudeva imprisoned, all their children are being killed. Markandeya Rishi thrashed by the ocean of devastation. Bhishmadev on the bed of arrows. And you made the point about Bhishmadev that if we were in that situation, could we even remember one name of Krishna? And so I wanted to hear from you how we can better remember Krishna when life is difficult. It might be easy when it's comfortable, but how can we practice remembering Krishna when it's difficult?
So, very good question. So actually, the last, in the purport itself, it is said that Yasmin sthitona dukkhena gurnapi vichalyate. Even a devotee, when he is superficially put into great difficulty, is never disturbed, actually. Prabhupada has written. Now, that's why I said devotee, they are stalwart. They are examples for us. For us, we are aspirants, is the right word, including myself. So we have prarabdha karma, and surrender is the only way, actually. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ashlishya va padaratam vinashtumam. So even with that difficulty, we have to hold on, no matter what, and chant his name. That is the answer. And associate with someone who can give us that upliftment. You can't take upliftment from someone who is down. You have to take upliftment from someone who is up. Someone who has that consciousness, who understands when he sees Krishna, when he sees Kalachandji, or he sees Bhagavatas or other things. You can only take from them. I can explain scientifically also, right? Whether you say positive energy attracts whichever. This is all part of Shastra only. But to answer your question, as aspirant Bhagavatas, to chant Sri Krishna's name and surrender to him and have the faith is the only way to overcome it. That is the only way. Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktihi. And yes, sometimes Prarabdha karma cannot be just, we can say, Krishna, I have told this many times in class, Krishna does not give us difficulties. It is our own karma. We are born because of our karma. Yes, He is there to guide us as Paramatma. He is there always. But the question is, do we want to take it? Right? So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. That is why Krishna has given the holy name, that we should continue chanting, we should surrender to Him. Now, as part of it, one may feel difficulties, but it doesn't mean we abandon Him. And of course, based on one's journey, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, someone will take at some point and someone may stop. But the unsuccessful yogi is never, never loses. So that is between the Jivatma and Sri Krishna. So the only way is to chant His name actually in Kali Yuga. So this is what Acharyas have said.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Continuing the same thread, this part of the purport really feels, this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. For a non-devotee, the world is full of problems, whereas for a devotee, the entire world is full of happiness. So for most of us, of the four, the one who's distressed comes to Krishna. And my personal inspiration to continue is because everything else is so miserable. And we're so aware of the miseries of life, and that's why we pursue. So when we read this, for a devotee, the entire world is full of happiness, it really feels like you're saying aspiring devotee, but like how far we are.
The best way to progress, I get your question, Mataji. So the answer is, that is why I said, Tranadapi Sunichena. Ashlishya va padarata. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Ashlishya va padaratam pinashtumam. One, if we are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have to ingrain that actually, Mataji. Difficulty will come. If Bhishma Pitama can feel on a bed of arrows, if Kunti Devi can feel bed of arrows, imagine Devaki, who has Sri Krishna inside her womb and has to bear the tribulation to see. Yes, it is a Leela, but Krishna wants to enjoy it. Na? Before that, 7 children were slayed in front of her. Na? It is not that Devaki did not have affection for the previous 7. Na? She's a mother. A mother is a mother. I mean, of course, I'm a man by body in this life, but only a woman can understand the connection, right? What she feels when she has a child inside. So naturally, this affection and emotion is there inside. But again, Mataji, for all of us as aspirant Bhagavatas, right? As you correctly quoted in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vidha Bhajante Mam, the 4 kinds of people, everyone will come to that only. That is how it is. We are not Nitya Siddhas. We are not eternal associates. Srimati Radharani, Krishna, and Nityanand Prabhu, they are all eternal associates. Their leelas are present. For us, we are here. So we have to aspire and purify ourselves. So happiness is by doing devotional service. That's why Anukulenu Krishnanu Shilam, the description is called devotional service. Devotion is there, but devotion helps in devotional service. Why Prabhupada has stressed, when you say any service, whether people do book distribution, people do preaching, people do temple service, anything, right? Or at home people do something. That service is what is the mood, because Krishna wants love. So Mataji, the Bhagavata, no matter we feel happiness, it has to come like, it always has to be the same. As I have said, like your prema for Krishna, even if there are difficulties. Rupa Goswami, in spite when he abandoned everything and was living in Vrindavana, it is like he used to go to beg for alms, correct? He never used to get, every time some people used to give him food, some days he used to not get food. But his love and devotion for Krishna was always the same. So that is how we take aspiration to chant his name, get inspired. And yes, it takes time, Mataji, because Anukulya Sankalpasya takes time and Pratikulpa Varjanam is second. So to to remove anarthas and many other things take a lot of time. And in the end of the day, I've said that because of our prarabdha karma cannot be just cut like this. It is not as easy as what people think. But one has to know consciously, if someone can uplift you, then how do you associate with them? That's a conscious choice. So, yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for beautiful description of Krishna's beauty. My question is follow up on Mataji's. I completely resonate with what she is asking. Sometimes I always question myself, am I coming excited to come and see Radha Kalachandji because I feel everything outside is temporary and miserable, or do I have true love for Kalachandji? I think the second one is not true, I know that. So my question is, can you remember any past times, either now contemporary or in the ancient, where there was a devotee who came to Krishna because they thought everything is temporal and miserable, but later it transformed into pure love for Krishna? Can you think of anything? Just give us some inspiration or motivation.
There are many examples. I mean, we can say, for example, Kubja is one example. It is one example, right? She desired Krishna in one way, right? To have as a consort, correct? But of course, it was transformed. It is one example. It's a very extreme example.
Yes. So I was wondering, all these, Mataji was telling Dhruv Maharaj, you were telling Kubja, those are all people because they came with instant touch of Krishna, personal presence of Krishna. But I don't think that's going to happen to me. So I'm just thinking of example, which happened as a gradual process. Can you think of any examples?
There are many actually. I'm not able to remember right now. Yeah, there are many actually. In fact, there are many folks. That is correct. Chitraketu is one of them, and also some of them we can see that. I can't remember this in full detail now, but there are few, Mataji. But the answer is this: your question is whether we come to temple Kalachandji or no. It doesn't matter. He's inside us. Today I'm here. What if tomorrow I cannot come here anymore? Does it mean we'll forget Krishna? Okay, by some people know I do service here. If I don't do, does it mean I'll forget Krishna? I remember every limb of his. No? It's always ingrained. That is how we should think. Nam Nam Akari Bahudaha. His name has the potency. That is why it's like a cyclic process, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. You chant, you get purified, faith also builds. Correct? Even if he is not there, for example, still he is present. Yes, in the initial stages it is difficult because association is important. But at some point, the question is this, if we leave ourselves on a mountain, does it mean we'll forget Krishna? That is not a test. It's not saying Krishna will put us like that. I'm just saying, whether we come to temple or we don't, the Dhrida Nishtam, that's why it says, there are different stages of Sharanagati. Mataji, I think you have asked me once before. There are different stages of Sharanagati. There are different stages of surrender to Him. I mean, in a very simplistic example, I can say, there's a difference between the surrender where the tiger cub lifts or the monkey mother holds the child. I mean, this is just a contrast given, actually speaking. So, if you leave like that, of course, if you fake it to say, Krishna will take care, you can't cheat Krishna. If you if you try to trick him, one cannot trick him, right? But it doesn't mean that he wants to, because, Mataji, we cannot, until we, and again I use this word, sometimes karma is so strong that it is penance. So Dhruva Maharaj did penance. Even Bhishma Pitama did penance. Devaki did penance to have them. It is for us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also did sannyas. When he lived in Jagannath Puri, he was not living an opulent lifestyle. Correct? Why? He was showing by example. For example, one example you said is ki- the king in Jagannath Puri, correct? He became a stalwart devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but not as initially he was, correct? He was in that state. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected him first, even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? We see in in Chaitanya Charitamrita so many examples. Because until without tyagam, we cannot come out of it. In fact, let me say this. Even today also, it doesn't mean that the stalwart devotees of Sri Krishna, they don't do penance. They still do. Srimati Radharani still does penance and sacrifice for her every day, no? For Sri Krishna, by service. It doesn't mean for expectation of return of something. That is pure love. So same thing for us. Our service also has to eventually get to that mode. And it takes time. So there are many examples, Mataji, as you said, in those who have gone from Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, Yoga Mishra, Bhakti. But then they have got elevated to that. And it has eventually come to that state. So, yes, Prabhuji,
You mentioned the Muslim religion, which is brought up in Chaitanya Charitamrita, of a long history of being attacked by Muslim people. Just the other day I read 1,200 devotees were killed with a single attack by Muslims on a South India temple of Vishnu. And when we see the Muslim religion being practiced, it seems like they're very devout. You know, if you're in a train in India and there's some Muslims around, you see that they'll put out their rugs and do prayers 5 times a day, and they're always talking about Allah, about God. And so how does something like that's always, how could people be like so devout towards God, but then, you know, they're always killing innocent people, attacking the terrorist attacks, attacking the train, attacking so many places, blowing themselves up. So how are they worshiping God, and at the same time everything's anti-religious?
I mean, I'll just say it this way that, of course, there are good and bad people in every religion also, right? Whether we call Sanatana Dharma or in any other religion, right? Of course, a lot of these religions are all religions in the Kali Yuga. They are not, they only come in the last 2,000 years, all of their origins. Our Sanatana Dharma is eternal. So, just to simply answer that, there may be good people, they are following what they're doing as part of their own prarabdha karma and what they believe is dharma. That's it. We can't change them because Kali Yuga will happen. And that is going to have, inevitably will be there. I mean, rather than worry about why they are like this, I always say it is better to focus on what we preserve ourselves, right? We change ourselves. We, of course, have, I know it is important to protect our Sanatana Dharma because there is a lot of work being done around the world when we say our religion or Sanatana Dharma. But at the same point, their philosophy of killing, it's not about people. I mean, people eat meat. That itself is violent, correct? So that itself is wrong in any religion or any form. And that's okay. We don't need to comment about them because we live in a society, because we have to interact with them. Sometimes we have to interact. We keep distance with them. We interact in a daily world. We respect them as Jivatma, and that's about it, right? So the only thing we can do is preach our dharma, protect ourselves and those around us. That's the best we can do. And that's why whether Prabhupada said is 10,000 years or us, our goal should be to go back as soon as possible. There was one devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, I want to take all sins, and this is not one person. A lot of Bhagavatas have prayed. We cannot take of every word. That's why I just used the example when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. It's not that he could not change. Bhagavan wants love. He wants devotion. It has to come out of free will, not out of force. So some of these folks, they may chant Krishna's name, they may associate, if not in this lifetime, some other lifetime. So all we can do is just be peaceful. And of course, fighting for the right of dharma is important to protect our Sanatana dharma against all these atrocious attacks. But I think we should just rather focus on chanting Krishna's name. So, Hare Krishna. Any other questions? I think enough of hearing Krishna's pastimes, otherwise people's stomach will be more important now. Prasadam. So, this is joking. Thank you very much. Vrindaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.